In this demonstration, I'll show you how the COZYROC REST components can be used for accessing Formstack forms and Formstack documents. I'll get the data from a set of forms submissions and merge that data into a Formstack document. Here I'm signed into my Formstack account, and you can see the submissions that have been submitted on my form. And you can't see all the fields, so I'm going to just quickly go through each of them. So there you can see there's a name, address, phone number, email, and I have 4 submissions in the data. And that's what I'm going to be copying over and merging, I should say, into a Formstack document. I want to show you how you get the form ID. So you go into the build capability for the form, and then up here in the URL you can see this number, and that's the number that is the form ID, which I'll be showing you how I use it in the package to identify this form. And then over here in the document section of Formstack, this is where I designed or built my document, and you can see all the fields there, and that's where I'm going to merge the information from the submissions. And then again up here in the URL is where you can see the document ID for the document that I want to use, so I'll be using that document ID in the package. Now I'm going to show you around a bit in the package that I created to get the submissions data from the form and merge it into documents. So we'll look at this connection manager first. This is the connection manager that I use to access the submissions data from the form. So the configuration is called Formstack, and then I have to fill in a server URL as well as a token file and password. And then the other Formstack related connection manager is this one. This one uses a different configuration. It's an experimental configuration. Again, I had to fill in a server URL, and this time I used a key and a secret. So now I'm on the control flow canvas, and I have 2 data flow tasks here. We'll go take a look at the first data flow. This is the REST source component. So this is what we use to pull the submissions data from the form. And this is the ID that I pointed out earlier when I was in the Formstack Forms page. So that's the form ID. And then to pull submissions data, this is just how the API is defined. You need to also put data and true for name and value. Just want to show you real quickly the columns I have. So you can see we just have name. It doesn't separate first and last name. Doesn't separate any of the components out in the address. So the way we pull them in is the full name, the full address. And then I write the data into a SQL Server table using the OLEDB destination. Now I'll go back to the control flow and we'll look at the second data flow. So the first thing I do is use the OLEDB source to pull the data, again, that I already saved there from the forms. And then I use 4 derived column transformations to separate out all the individual components of the name as well as the address. And then finally, we use the JavaScript component from COZYROC, and I'm using it with one of our scripts that we provide. It's called the REST Web Service Request Transformation. So here's where we select the proper connection manager, which is the one to access the Formstack documents. And the API told us what to use for the URL here. And I want to show you, here's the document ID that I pointed out when I was logged into the Formstack documents page. And we use a method of post here. You need to fill in the content type. And I'm going to show you what this full body looks like. So there at the top you can see we have to put each of the individual components in there, and their names match what we set up in the document that we're merging the data into. And so the last thing to do now, I'm going to execute the package. All right, and it completed successfully. So now I've opened up the email thread where I received the documents from Formstack. So we'll look at the first document here. You can see all the data that got pulled from the first submission on the form. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to follow us on social media, here's how you can do that.